Good morning. Thank you everyone for being here today. We're here to talk about the sad and unnecessary loss of Gloria Surge's life. With me to my left is my partner, Josh Ferraro, and to my right is Bill Surge, one of the children of Gloria Surge that is here today that's going to speak on behalf of the family. Bill's two sisters are with us here today. They are not going to be speaking. So I'm going to speak for a few minutes, and then Bill Surge is going to speak. And then any questions about the case can be directed to me or to my partner, Josh Ferraro. So I've lost my table space, but that's okay. Let's see here. All right. The facts of this case are clear. On February 20, 2023, Gloria Surge was walking her small dog, Trooper, in the backyard of her house. Without any warning, a large alligator leapt out of the retention pond behind her house, behind her backyard, and grabbed Gloria by her left foot, trying to drag her into the water. Amazingly, this was seen by one of Gloria's neighbors who tried to help. She told Gloria there was a small boat, and she tried to push the boat towards Gloria as Gloria's head was coming out of the water, gasping for air. And in the last statements, the last words that Gloria spoke on this earth, she told her friend and neighbor she can't make it, the alligator has her, and she was pulled under the water, where she died a horrible and unnecessary death. Sadly, our firm has encountered this type of situation in the past. Our investigation has revealed that Spanish Lakes, the community where Gloria lived, is 100% responsible for this incident, and this incident was 100% preventable. I'd like to speak with you about some of the things, some of the facts that our investigation revealed. If Spanish Lakes had taken any measure of common sense, of reasonable action, Gloria would be here today with her 5 children, her 15 grandchildren, and her 9 great-grandchildren. And because Spanish Lakes failed to act reasonably and protect its residents, Gloria is not here on this earth. Spanish Lakes knew or should have known that there were dangerous alligators located in the retention pond lake area behind the home where she lived. In fact, the neighborhood named this particular alligator Henry. And they named it Henry because the alligator was seen so often on the shores of this retention pond. Of course, giving an alligator a cute name doesn't make it any less dangerous. In fact, it makes it more dangerous. It makes it seem not so dangerous. It gives residents a false sense of safety and security, which does not exist when there are dangerous alligators. Residents and community staff fed this alligator. Our investigations revealed that residents and staff fed the alligator chicken and other food from their lunch on a regular basis. The community had noticed that staff and residents were feeding the alligators and did nothing to stop it. Experts will tell you that feeding wildlife increases the risk of animal attack, including alligators, exponentially for 2 reasons. First, this desensitizes the wild animals, including alligators, to the presence of humans. And second, it identifies humans as a source of available food. Amazingly, Spanish Lakes actually posted no warnings about the existence of these dangerous alligators they knew about. There were no warnings to its residents in the weekly newsletters that Spanish Lakes sent to its residents. After the attack, during investigation, they were asked about this, and they said signs were now being constructed. That's a little too late to save or bring back Gloria. A recent visit to the property revealed no signs warning of the alligators had been placed yet. Not only did Spanish Lakes fail to warn its residents about the dangerous alligators that they knew existed, they actively encouraged their residents to socialize by the retention pond. They placed community benches on the shores of the water. They allowed boats and fishing and even small docks. They knew this even though they allowed this even though they knew dangerous alligators were present. I think most are stressing for Gloria's family is the fact that Gloria was forced to walk her dog behind the home in the backyard by the retention pond. Spanish Lakes is one of these communities that has a rule. You can't walk your dog in the streets of your community. In fact, Gloria was given a violation and eviction warning for walking her small dog in the front yard of her house. That left her with two choices. She can bring her dog to a dog walk area almost a mile away, which isn't really feasible for an 85-year-old woman 2 to 3 times per day, or she could walk her dog in the backyard of her home. Spanish Lakes made her be there. Now, all of this could have been prevented. This loss of Gloria's life could have been prevented with warnings, notice to its residents, any measure of safety. What's really amazing is that Spanish Lakes knew of the existence of these dangerous alligators and did nothing about it. They failed to utilize a public resource offered by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, which allows for the removal of dangerous alligators if the alligator is more than 4 feet long and could pose a potential risk to humans. Clearly, the alligator that took Gloria's life met this definition. With one simple phone call, Spanish Lakes could have had this alligator identified, trapped, and removed, and Gloria would still be here. They knew about these dangerous alligators, and they failed to do so. Spanish Lakes encouraged activity at the retention pond. They knew about the dangerous alligators and failed to warn their residents. They knew about these dangerous alligators and failed to have them removed with a phone call. Our firm filed a lawsuit today on behalf of Gloria Surge's family to hold Spanish Lakes responsible and to make sure that we don't have another preventable and sad loss of life like happened with Gloria Surge. Ready?
Mm-hmm. 1 year ago, I received a phone call that every son dreads. My mother, Gloria, a healthy and strong, vibrant and beautiful woman, was dead. I was told there had been an event and law enforcement was on the scene, but I never could have imagined the agonizing way in which my mom spent the final moments of her life. Over the next minutes and hours, I learned that my mom, who in her 85th year, who could not swim, was grabbed by a 10-foot, 700-pound alligator and dragged into the water, where she drowned in the most violent and terrifying way possible. I'm here today to speak on behalf of my family, but more importantly, to be a voice for my mom. Because this could have been prevented, this should never have happened, and God willing, it will never happen again. In the weeks following my mom's death, I was completely lost, as I simply could not come to grips with what really had happened. Certainly every child will someday have to confront the reality of their parents' death. And we had done that a few years prior with the passing of my dad. But the sudden and violent nature of this attack, thinking about my mom in her final moments, resulted in a whole different level of all-consuming grief. For days after we received that initial phone call, we were inundated with questions from reporters and entertainment shows who sought to tell my mom's story. And while we all appreciated the fact that they cared, it also meant that we were forced to relive that terrible day over and over again. It's now been nearly a year, and I am sad to say that the reality of losing our mom is really starting to set in. She's missed the birth of 3 additional great-grandchildren. This coming year, there are 2 family weddings that are planned. and Mom won't be there with us. But it's not really those big events that matter the most. My mom spoke with my sisters every single day, just to chit-chat and to pass some time. I would FaceTime with my mom numerous times a week, but especially on Friday evenings when she had her weekly pizza party with her friends. We'd FaceTime just to see how it went and how delicious her pizza was. She loved pizza, and she was one of those people who could eat it every day. She was just simply a part of our everyday life. And missing this, knowing that it was completely unnecessary, that's what truly hurts the most. Our goal in being here today and in bringing this lawsuit against Spanish Lakes is very simple. No one should ever experience what my mom had to endure that day. And no child should have to bury their mom under such horrible circumstances. This was a tragedy that was 100% preventable. So I stand here today on behalf of my mom to share her story in the hope that this will never happen again.
Any questions about the lawsuit for Josh and I?
Gary, Dave Bowman, WPTV. You said it was preventable. Are there other situations that you're aware of, or do you believe there are situations where other groups, other homeowners groups, associations in neighborhoods with retention ponds and alligators are not adequately doing what is necessary to warn the people that live nearby?
Well, that's the really good thing, is that Florida and the FWC has put in place something called the SNAP program, the Statewide Nuisance Alligator Program, which simply says that if there's an alligator that residents or community members or property managers see that's at least 4 feet long and that poses any sort of risk, all that has to be done is a simple phone call to a hotline. FWC will issue a permit to a trapper who will come out and remove the alligator. So there's simply no reason for other homeowners associations to neglect the way that this homeowners association simply couldn't do anything.
Just to follow up to
Yes.
that, does the law specifically hold homeowners associations in neighborhoods responsible for this? Is there anything written in state law that says they have to be responsible?
Absolutely. You know, a property owner, a manager, and a controller of property owes certain non-delegable duties to its residents and to the people on its property. That non-delegable duty is to act with reasonable care to prevent foreseeable harm. What did they do here to prevent this foreseeable harm? They knew that there was a danger. They knew that there were alligators that were 10 feet large. All they had to do was make a phone call. They didn't do that. All that they had to do was put up a sign, put it in the newsletter. They didn't do that. On the contrary, not only did they not take reasonable steps to prevent this danger, they actually enhanced it. How did they enhance it? Gloria was walking her little dog Trooper in the front of her house, and she got an eviction notice that said that if you continue to do this, you won't be allowed to live in this community that you've lived in for literally 30 years. You have to walk your dog at the dog run a mile away. We know that wasn't going to happen. You're not going to take an 85-year-old's not going to take their little dog 2 to 3 times a day down to the dog run a mile away. Or you're going to walk your dog in the backyard, in your own property, on this retention pond where they knew that a 700-pound alligator, actually multiple alligators were there. They knew that this danger existed. So is there an obligation? Absolutely. There is always an obligation to act for the protection of those who you have control over, who you are charged with protecting. And it's simply an obligation to act with a reasonable care. They didn't act with reasonable care. They didn't act with any care, and that's why we're here today.
In reference to the SNAP program with FWC and the removal of this animal, aside from it being larger than 4 feet, did the animal ever prove to be a nuisance prior to this incident?
Yes, because residents will tell you that they were feeding it, that it was approaching people, that it was coming up on their lawns. And that in and of itself provided them with a reasonable belief that there was a nuisance, that it could have posed a danger. And that's enough. FWC will tell you that they will absolutely have taken this alligator out. In fact, in the aftermath of this event, FWC did issue permits because finally the community contacted the SNAP program, and they removed multiple alligators that were far more than 4 feet in length and presented a danger, just as this so-called Henry alligator did that day to Gloria.
Has FWC done anything to Spanish Lakes? Have they cited them? Have they taken any action against the homeowners association?
No, they have just recently concluded their report, their homicide report, and at this point they've not taken any action that we're aware of. We don't know whether any action is forthcoming, but we believe that the best remedy is through the civil justice system, because that'll hold Spanish Lakes accountable and it will deter this sort of careless and thoughtless behavior in the future.
Bill, my name's Will Greenlee from TC Bomb. When did your mom move into Spanish Lakes Fairways, that house?
That particular house?
Yes, sir.
In September of '01.
Did she, what did she like living, what did she like about living there?
I would say the community, the people, the friends that they made.
Yeah. Let me just add a little bit of flavor. I'm an old Florida boy, so if you live in Florida long enough, you have this point of view. Alligators happen. We see alligators. Sure, alligators happen. That's not what this case is about. In this situation, Spanish Lakes knew of the dangerous alligators and did nothing. They did nothing. They could have warned their residents. They could have had the alligator removed. And instead, they encouraged their residents to go to the shore of the retention pond with community benches and sent them to where the alligators are. This was going to happen. It was preventable, and Spanish Lakes had knowledge of the alligators. There's a difference between alligators happen and allowing your residents to face high likelihood of alligator attack, and that's what happened here.
You guys mentioned this eviction notice that was issued to Ms. Gloria. When was this eviction notice issued?
The first one was issued approximately 2 years before this attack, and at that point, she continued to walk on the